Hello, and welcome to my Lead What You Live podcast with Tina Lizzio. That's me. And of course, I have another incredible guest with me today, Dr. Steve Moore with Pharmanex. And I'm really excited to get into a deep conversation about where we are going in 2025 in health and wellness, especially with the new administration in and the MAHA movement with Del Bigtree. So we're going to get into Dr. Moore's background from 25 years in the health and wellness industry and how we met. We met just over a year ago at a health and wellness conference actually in Orlando. And I have now, since I crossed 50, I have come to value health as my top value, health and wellness, understanding the universal law that everything is energy. My energy being high is everything to me. And so I value health now and longevity more than anything. And so I have looked into and used and studied many things from supplements to hormones to looking at all different types of medical devices out there. There's incredible advancements in technology, especially with AI. And so without further ado, I want to get into a conversation again with Dr. Steve Moore. Welcome to the Lead What You Live podcast.
Thank you, Tina. Great to be here with you.
Great. And so Steve is, like my other guests, also a leader in the field. And he really is all about get healthy. USA, let's get healthy. Again, if we don't have our health, health is our greatest wealth. As a life strategist focusing on health, wealth, and relationships, health really is our greatest wealth. So could you, being a leader with Pharmanex, you've built an incredible team, an incredible business across the country and now expanding globally as well. Could you tell our viewers, how did you get started? What was the passion, the drive to get into because you were young, obviously. You started when you're like 10. So,
Well, Tina, when I started this, I was young. You're right. I was always wanted to be a doctor. I always liked healthcare, and I was trying to figure out what kind of doctor I wanted to be, and I settled on being an orthopedic surgeon. And as I was studying pre-med at the University of Maryland, I really had a wake-up call
Go
because,
Terps.
yeah, go Terps, right? I had a friend in college that had migraines, and I saw how she was treated with lots of medications, pain pills. I saw how she got addicted to a lot of those things, and I said, something's not right here. And there was a chiropractor that helped her and said, let's get to the root cause. And we think the root cause of your migraines may be that equestrian accident you had. It may be coming from your head and from your neck. And so he had helped her with that. The drugs were actually causing more harm than good. And it made me think about a different way of treating people. Let's get to the root cause of what's causing people to have health issues. And so I moved out to California. I went to chiropractic school out there, and I've always been entrepreneurial. My uncle was an entrepreneur. I come from a family of a lot of entrepreneurs. And when I was living in the Silicon Valley going to school, I was trying to figure out, how do we get people to be proactive with their health? Because our healthcare system or our medical system is really about, it's a reactive system.
Yes.
We don't intervene until we have a problem, right? If you go to a doctor and say, how do I stay healthy? A lot of these doctors don't know what to do. Now, we're seeing a lot of changes over the last handful of years, but 25 years ago when I was studying, preventative health didn't really exist. It wasn't very popular. It was a very reactive system. And so a lot of people that I was talking to in my community to try to get them to engage in healthier behaviors, like what you do today will really determine what your health, what your life is going to feel like as you get older. And it's so important to be proactive. And the response I got from people was, well, my doctor said I'm healthy, right? And the response I had is, well, health is not and should not be defined by the absence of disease.
Correct.
Right? We need to optimize our health. Like if
Right.
wherever we are, we need to do things to be proactive so that when life throws us a curveball, our body has the ability to deal with it. Our bodies know how to protect, our bodies know how to heal, but our bodies have to have the right nutrients, the right lifestyle, the right activities, the right sleep to be able to be resilient. And that's one of the things, and a lot of these things that are missing in our medical system. And so when I was in the Silicon Valley, there was a technology that was coming out that was just, I thought was amazing. And the US government had invented it, and it made me think a little bit differently about my health because I was really involved with eating clean, fitness, but I wasn't focused a lot on these micronutrients that really drive all the biochemistry in the body. And as I started to see how people reacted to this, I said, wow, this is something here that can really get people's attention to be more proactive with their health because it can measure problems in the body essentially before they manifest into structural damage and into disease later on.
Yeah, excellent. And this is a different type of testing than the what we'll see in the regular blood labs. People hate to be pricked. People can, really resist getting their blood work done. And there's these wide range anyway of what's even normal. And I really like that you focused on the two words root cause because it's getting better. I think it is getting better that doctors are wanting to address that. But they're so busy now with our medical care system. They're seeing so many patients. They come in, a patient comes in with a complaint, a particular symptom, and they're writing a prescription to treat the symptom and not look at the root cause. And the next thing you know, you've got a pharmaceutical, client for life. And their health only declines, as we know. We saw this more than ever during COVID, right? The ability for people to be resilient or to bounce back depended on the state of their health, and many not even knowing. We think unless we're like dying and we're sick that everything is okay. I'm healthy, and so I really do believe it is about optimization, not just the baseline, not just like the minimum of anything, right?
Yeah, this has been going on for a long time, right? This isn't new. It's just COVID made people more aware. And I talk to a lot of very conservative medical doctors that tell me privately that we're now questioning everything we've ever learned in our medical training, right? Allopathic medicine has a big gap, right? It's very good at dealing with trauma and those types of things, but it's not very good at keeping people healthy. And I think that COVID was a big wake-up call, and it's making patients, it's making organizations, the government, it's making a lot of healthcare providers now rethink what can we do to help the body be more resilient.
Exactly. Like noticing that vitamin D levels matter, things like that. Well, we won't see commercials about on television about needing to take more vitamin D, or looking at the carotenoids, our oxidative stress. And these kind of things get into the technology that you're referring to that you discovered with Pharmanex. And so talk about that. So Pharmanex, why Pharmanex? And talk about this technology and what it is, what it's done, what it measures, and how it is just really blown up in the medical community. So many doctors and wellness providers have embraced this. And so it really caught my attention. I have really paid attention, like I said, and done a lot of research myself the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years in particular, as I'm getting older. And I was really intrigued in talking to you, and you were just also, super authentic and transparent and just sharing information. I think that's really what it's about, sharing the knowledge, the experience, the wisdom that you have with others. That's why we're here also, because I think it's important. What Pharmanex is doing and where they're going is really incredible. And that's why I want you to share more about that.
Well, you mentioned vitamin D, right?
Yes.
That we're becoming more aware of vitamin D because we're measuring it more routinely and we're seeing a lot of deficiencies. You were talking about hormones before we started the show,
Yep.
and you would never know what hormones, if you should take hormones or where you are, unless we're measuring. When it comes to diet and lifestyle, which we know is the number one cause of preventable disease, we've had a food pyramid and a food plate, which have both been pretty much useless, right? They have not been very effective ways to address nutrition and encourage people to make these changes. And the reason is we've never really had an easy way to measure it. And so the National Institute of Health was looking for a way to measure so we can see how people are doing, how protected they are from these oxidative stress that leads to a lot of diseases, from eye disease to cancer to diabetes to dementia. aging in general, right? In fact, you mentioned hormones as well, the hormone receptors in the body. So if anyone is taking hormones and they're concerned about that, a lot of times doctors will recommend these hormones. But the other thing we also need to measure is how healthy is that receptor, right? I mean, here we are talking into a microphone, but if these earphones were not working, you couldn't hear me.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with hormones. Your hormones, you can turn up the volume or the quantity of hormones, but if you don't have the receptor to receive those hormones that is functioning optimally, then it's not going to hear that message. And so keeping those hormone receptors healthy by knowing your carotenoid antioxidant levels is actually critical to have a more comprehensive approach to hormone therapy. And so we have a lot of the top anti-aging doctors now that when they're measuring hormones, they're also measuring these carotenoid antioxidants that keep the hormone receptors healthy. So you can actually get more function with actually having to have less hormones. So, and we're not saying that hormone therapy is unneeded.
Yes.
What we're saying is these are things that actually make that therapy work better.
Yes, because how do there's taking the hormones and looking at bioidentical hormones and things like that, because I have also looked into that. Game changer, by the way. I think it's growing also. For men, testosterone replacement therapy. I mean, these things, just as we age, our hormones change, they fall off a cliff. It's just a fact of life. They don't have to. But there's different ways, obviously, that we can measure. And so how, in terms of dosing, even with our supplements, things have to be digested through the gut. There's now sublingual versus capsules versus pills versus creams. There's all these different delivery systems. But in order to know how we are absorbing and how the cells are taking them in, it's helpful to have a measure,
Yeah,
for this.
everything else is really just marketing, right?
Right.
What really matters is, are these nutrients getting to the tissue, to the site of action or not? Because we still don't, even though we have all this advanced science, we still don't understand every single reaction in the metabolic process, how a nutrient goes, from your mouth to your end organ. We know a lot about it, but we don't understand all of it. And so to be able to measure this now for the first time at the end organ, at the tissue level, is exciting to be able to do, right?
Yes.
And now we don't have to get as confused with some of these marketing stories with the next gimmick or the next new way of doing something, because really what matters is, are these nutrients getting to where they're supposed to be or not? And that's what really attracted me to Pharmanex and the biophotonic scanner, was that they had a way to measure these nutrients in the body without a blood draw.
That's amazing. That's a huge, huge advantage, because again, people don't want the needles and resist getting their, annual blood work. And it's necessary. I mean, unless they go to the hospital and it's an emergency and it's a problem and you're really sick. And then it's like, well, too bad. We're going to have to draw some blood to find out what's going on with you.
Yeah, and carotenoids aren't routinely measured. In fact, they're almost never measured with routine blood work because they're a very expensive, very difficult measurement to get. So they're used in clinical studies and those types of things. But to be able to now make this accessible to everybody, right? I mean, that's what we need to do is I don't know how often you get your blood test done or how often the audience does, but most people aren't doing full functional panels.
Definitely not.
They're very expensive to do. They're very difficult to interpret. And then how often are you actually going to come back and get that redone to see how you're doing? Maybe once a year, right? This technology allows people to measure on a monthly basis to get that immediate feedback to see if the changes that they're making in their diet, their lifestyle, and their supplements are actually making a measurable difference. And it can be done in a matter of seconds, really inexpensively, with a portable device. And what's exciting was this device used to be the size of an MRI machine, so it wasn't very accessible. And over the last 20 years, the company's been able to make this very portable, very accessible to everybody.
Yes, and this is the device right here that you have. This is the third generation, right?
Yes.
The biophotonic. What exactly is this technology?
So this is based on Nobel Prize winning science. You basically just stick your hand on here, and there's a type of spectroscopy in here, so it's using light to measure things in the body. When we analyze blood, we send it into a lab, and the lab analyzes it, usually with light, to see what's in that blood. Well, now we don't need to take a blood draw. We can analyze through the skin what these levels of these nutrients are, which is actually more accurate and more reliable than doing in the blood. Uh, that the technology behind this is actually on Mars right now on the Mars rover, analyzing for organic compounds. It's used in telescopes. This is the first time it's been able to be applied to biological tissue.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And so I think people also don't realize that's why when we talk about what we put, it's not just in our body, but on our body. From the makeup that I'm using to with the sunscreens, and that's how you are able to actually deliver hormones and other things in the form of cream because it's absorbing right away into the skin. So within seconds, you're able to come up with a score, a result.
Yeah, this device takes 30 seconds. There'll be a new one coming out towards the end of this year that will be about the size of a hockey puck. And utilizing machine learning and AI, there are about 25 other biomarkers that we think we'll be able to measure in addition to knowing these carotenoids. And it's going to really change the way that we look at health. I mean, I was just meeting with some major organizations now that are looking at this technology and what we're doing to make a bigger impact throughout the country and around the world.
So not only is it smaller, it's also much less expensive. Again, the whole idea is to get it into the hands of as many people as possible. So it becomes almost like not just going to the doctor's office, but a household item. This can really within your family and everybody can measure. Actually, this was what you showed me in your hand. Do we have a video of this technology that's coming? This is the fourth generation, correct?
It is. It's actually a major breakthrough. So for 20 years, we've been developing this technology, and advances in AI and machine learning have really allowed the company to take it to the next level.
Wow, let's show the viewers what this looks like, what we have coming. Beautiful. Wow, so we're going from a football size, we're going from the size of an MRI machine to now the size of a football, which is also super compact and easy. And that's where we're going. It's like the size of it fits in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, there are only about 2,000 of these current units in the marketplace right now, and they've made a huge impact being able to do 26 million scans worldwide, making huge impacts in medical offices, in communities, and a lot of other places that we're making this accessible to people. This next generation, we're talking about building hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them. And so with Get Health USA, what we're doing here is we're growing an organization to advance this into the market through medical sales reps, through healthcare facilities, through health coaches, health screening events, all types of collaborations that we're doing right now. We're working with some of the top health influencers, and it's really an exciting movement. And so we've got a lot of work to do here to solve the biggest problem that we have in healthcare, which is our diet and our lifestyle. We can't continue to just prescribe more drugs, do more surgeries, spend trillions and trillions of dollars treating disease. What we need to do is provide a way, a science-based way to give people a proactive approach to stay healthy. And measuring these carotenoids are the shield in every cell in the body. They're the molecular shield, like they're the force field of your cells. Every cell has these within the membranes of the body, and they protect every single cell. And so knowing these levels and then being able to offer a quick way to improve those levels through supplements that actually work is really a game changer. And we're very excited about the place that we're going. The thing that we're looking for right now is more collaborations, more leadership in this space to take part in expanding us into the market.
Yeah, was in total alignment, like I said, when looking at my top values and saying, this is a business, this is a product and device, because like you have the supplementation, like you said, you have the way to measure. We're out. It's incredible. You go to GNC or Vitamin Shop or anywhere, CVS, Walgreens, and it's overwhelming the number of supplements that are out there. Which one to take? How many? It's and how do we even know if these things are working or not?
Well, the problem is we don't, right?
We
When I
don't.
when I came out of school, I was trying to solve that problem. What do I recommend for my patients, and what do I recommend for my family? And I had access to any supplement line out there, and I'm going through all these catalogs. And it seemed like the more I was trying to understand supplements, I think like most people, the more confused I was becoming, because every company is selling you their story. They're telling you why they're different, that they're pharmaceutical grade, which, by the way, doesn't mean anything. Like, pharmaceutical grade doesn't mean anything. It's a term that's thrown around there a lot, but there's actually no standard for pharmaceutical grade supplements.
Oh, really?
There's no standard for science-based supplements. Like, these are just words that sound good, and but they really have no certification or no real meaning in the marketplace. And so trying to figure this out, if you can't measure, you really don't know if something is working, if a company is telling you the truth. Every company that I talked to said they've got the best of something, right? And they're all lying. So how do you really know is to be able to measure. And so when I came across this technology and the company that's behind it, what's pretty fascinating is the founders actually came from pharma. They were drug discovery scientists looking in nature to look for ways to develop new drugs. And over several decades in leading a lot of the biggest pharmaceutical research engines, they had realized that the natural compounds that they were originally discovering for medicinal purposes were more effective and had less side effects than the drugs that were being made. And they knew the drug companies had no interest in developing things natural. And the reason is because you can't patent it. And if you can't patent it, the drug companies can't make money on it.
Ah, so that's key. So if you are taking things that are naturally occurring in nature and it's not a created chemical compound, you can't patent it.
You can only patent new molecules. And so what the drug companies do is they look in nature to find these active ingredients that have been used in Chinese medicine or indigenous cultures
Like
around the world.
mushrooms or
All kinds of things,
tons
yeah.
of things, yeah.
And then they find out what that active ingredient is or what that active molecule is, and then the chemists then manipulate that molecule to create a new molecule that can be patented, and then it can be monetized. And often what happens is you end up with more side effects. You end up with something that's not as bioactive as a natural form, because I believe that we're in tune with nature, we're in tune with God, and the molecules that are created out there naturally have a deeper connection to our body.
Yes.
The man-made molecules, right, where man is trying to create things or trying to be God, I think that's when you start to introduce a lot of problems, because our bodies are not in tune with these man-made things like they are in tune with natural things. And so one of my litmus tests is when I look at things to improve my health for myself and my family, is this a compound that's in nature that is compatible with the body? Now, yes, there are a lot of natural things that are poisonous and so forth, but the things that are in nature that are healthy are much more compatible to our bodies than the things that are made by man.
And how about the term nutraceutical? So you're talking about, what is a pharmaceutical grade, even mean? And now the supplement market, it seems I hear the word nutraceuticals. So what does that mean?
It's a sexier word, right? It doesn't really mean much more. So,
I'm in the nutraceutical business.
It sounds better.
Right.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical drugs meet the nutrition industry, and we're going to call it a nutraceutical.
Yep, it sounds like it's more scientific, but really, again, like some of the other words I had mentioned, there's no real meaning to that. And so the challenge that a lot of consumers have and a lot of healthcare providers have is when you're looking for supplements, you're going to, like, I'm going to a biohack conference, you're going to it this weekend.
Yes.
I go to a lot of conferences, and any company can have a good looking booth. They can spend $5, $10, $20, $50,000,
Marketing is huge.
$100,000 and make themselves look like they've got all this science, right?
Yep.
But what is really behind the curtain? Like, you can have a great website, but do you have a lab? What kind of scientists, what kind of research are you doing? What kind of raw materials? And that is something that is almost impossible for the consumer and the doctor to go figure out. And so when I was on this journey, I started looking at these companies and what's really behind the curtain. And when I flew out to the Pharmanex headquarters and saw 70 full-time scientists doing real research, real quality control, working with universities all over the world, I saw something much different than I was seeing with a lot of the other brands that I was evaluating at the time.
Yes. So I had the pleasure of going in the past year to Utah also and checking out the facility. It is impressive. I got to see every aspect of the scientist, how, creating the compound, how it's the facility itself was just incredible, and clean, and the distribution system and the packaging and seeing the capsules or the pills or all the different kind of supplements, creams, et cetera, being made. Very impressive, made here in the USA.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I think a lot of your audience may have seen some of the documentaries about the food industry, like Food Inc., right? And how many people became a vegetarian after they watched that,
what the health
right?
and game changers and
What is going on? Because when you actually look at how things are being made, you're like, wow, this is absolutely horrible what's happening. I don't want to be part of that. And a lot of the supplement companies are like that as well. And I saw something very different when I looked at Pharmanex.
I saw that too.
And I was like,
and that's why I wanted to talk to you further. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible. So again, two things. We're expanding an incredible line, and with Pharmanex, but the key for me was also that ability to measure it. It's just like with this, if you're not standing on the scale, how do you know where you are? People have no sense. I don't want to. Who wants to stand on the scale? But in order, we see how much weight we're gaining or losing as a measure, right? But that doesn't even tell a full story, because you can lose all these peptides out there. Where now it's the peptides, and now we have this whole weight loss peptide market. These drugs that are semaglutide and tirzepatide, and those drug companies are making great money and is doing a lot for people, right?
They'll bankrupt the country if we don't change it, right? They're so popular and so expensive, and what they really do is they trick the body. They hijack some of your natural mechanisms with these man-made molecules, and you end up with a host of side effects when you do that. You see, the fundamental flaw with our medical system and our pharmaceutical industry is the philosophy that disease comes from outside the body, therefore care must come from outside the body. But really, disease comes from within the body. It comes from your body not being healthy and not being able to be resilient. And so when you fix the inside of the body by providing nutrients, exercise, better sleep, lowering stress levels to get the body to function better, then health will come from within the body. And so the drug industry says, well, health comes from out, therefore the treatment needs to come from outside the body. And so my fundamental belief system, and a lot of other doctors and other health influencers around the world are embracing this as well, is that we need to get the body to function better by giving it the nutrients, the exercise, the sleep, the lowering the stress, the mindfulness, the spirituality, so the body can be healthier on the inside. And when it's healthier on the inside, we'll live a lot longer, we'll live a lot healthier, and we'll be a lot healthier and happier as well.
And by the way, when you and I understand this, when we're talking about health, we're talking about the whole comprehensive mental, physical, emotional, our spiritual health, our social health, being in relationship with others, our mood, our attitude, again, our energy. Energy is everything is energy. So therefore, energy is everything. And so it's really, if our microbiome is off in our gut, antibiotics are a great invention, and sometimes we really do need them, but then they're also often overprescribed, when there is possibly a holistic alternative, and this disrupts the microbiome, and then the next thing you know, it's affecting the brain chemistry of the dopamine and serotonin, and these are all real disruptions that are making people, you're kind of killing all the bacteria, not just the good and not just the bad bacteria, but the good bacteria also, and people don't know things like to take a probiotic to try to restore after being sick and needing to take an antibiotic for a bacterial infection. So again, knowing what the health is such it's an overall thing within the body. It's not just one area. We're not just talking about physical health, because the impact we are, and yet at the same time, the physical health and well-being is impacting all other aspects and dimensions of our health. If I don't have energy, then I have no drive, then I'm not motivated, then I can't create and generate and impact and lead anybody anywhere, if I'm down and out, if I'm down and out. So get healthy. Get healthy is your particular kind of move within Pharmanex. You've built an incredible team. I know working with I was drawn to your leadership, being in leadership myself, because again, I like to work with a lot of founders, executives, entrepreneurs like yourself, and where I am in alignment. I think alignment is so important with what leaders are up to. What is the intention? What is the mission? What is the motivation here? And I really appreciate what you're up to. So get healthy in terms of building, again, a network and team. Talk more about that.
Yeah, so with Get Healthy
Like,
US,
I'd love to get more involved. I
yeah,
myself would love to get, because it's in alignment with what I do when I work with people in their health, wealth, and relationship strategy and life strategy. And so I see the technology and where we're coming. How would someone like myself get more involved?
yeah, so with Get Healthy USA, we have a website, gethealthyusa.com. There are different ways to partner with us. So we're growing our team of medical and other sales reps, entrepreneurs that are interested in this space, healthcare providers, wellness clinics. We're doing community-based scanning events around the country to help our communities get healthier, to address the root cause of why we're sick, which is our diet and our lifestyle. We're working with health influencers. I mean, we've got a big problem to solve here. And what our mission here is to get to the root cause of why people are dealing with a lot of health issues. Why is our healthcare or sick care system not working? And we're in a very exciting time right now where things are moving in a different direction, right? We cannot continue to spend trillions and trillions of dollars chasing or managing disease, right? We know that that's not working. If you look at healthcare expenditures in the United States, we spend way more money than any other country in the world, and we're not even the top 50 when it comes to health, right? We have a
Wow.
lot of issues here.
Yeah.
So we're spending money on the wrong things. And what we're doing is we're
We
providing
have an obesity epidemic. Not surprising, we have a mental health crisis. So again, we have the physical, and that's manifesting in part in the mental, emotional breakdown.
Well, if you look at a lot of the food industry, I mean, the food industry is controlled by a handful of companies, right? We think we have a lot of choice, but really, if you actually go up the food chain, right?
No pun intended.
Right, you see it's controlled by a handful of companies that are putting chemicals and toxins in our food, right? I mean, a lot of these companies, there's a big chemical industry putting pesticides, fungicides, artificially made things. Again, these are the drug companies we talked about, they're patenting chemicals. Well, the food industry and the pesticide industry, they're patenting chemicals as well, and they just become a supply chain to put all this stuff into our food. Now, the sicker, and a lot of the food industry is also controlled by the tobacco industry, if you think about it. So the sicker we are as a nation, the more money all these companies make. Healthy people are not good customers to a health industry, which is actually a misnomer. It's really a sick care industry. And I really believe that doctors and patients want to stay healthy. I really believe that they have the intention in doing it, but we have a broken system focused on the wrong things. Again, if you follow the money, the sicker we are, the more money the drug companies make, the more money the hospitals make. I mean, I don't know anyone that's healthy and says, I need to go to a hospital. It's the sick people that are going there.
Correct.
So there is a conflict of interest between health and healthcare.
Yes.
And that's our fundamental problem. When we can start to provide practical science-based solutions to actually get people healthier and decrease healthcare expenditures, that's when we'll actually start to have some change. And that's what we're doing with Get Healthy USA, is we have developed and have partnered with practical ways to actually drive wellness that are also profitable, because it is a business, right? And so we need ways that actually make sense so that these healthcare providers and these businesses can thrive by promoting wellness instead of just focusing on disease management.
I mean, I get excited. I think about this. This needs to go into all the health clubs. What about Lifetime and LA Fitness and the Gold's Gyms and how about in the schools? I mean, they're serving It's, it's terrible what they're serving, obviously, even the food in the schools for the kids. But what about if kids, just like they get screened for their eyes and their hearing, why not get tested to see how they're evolving and developing, especially like if not even in the younger years, but high school. And there'd be a way also where, if kids get educated, they can be advocates and bring that home and teach mom and dad about it,
Well,
right?
speaking of children,
Yes,
so I have
and you have three young children,
I
so
have
I want to hear how you feel about that and bringing it to
yeah.
because your children are homeschooled.
Right. So we have three young children, and 13, 10, and 7, right? And since they were born, we've been measuring them. So we need to start way earlier on because habits start to develop at childhood. And the same thing with eating habits, right? A lot of us think that we get sick based on our genetic predisposition. It's a family history based on our genes. But really,
Well, my dad's fat, so that's why I'm fat.
yeah, but a lot of that is yes, there's some genetic component to that, but the majority of that influence of family history of disease is because the family habits pass from one generation to the next. So
Yes.
if my parents were eating unhealthy, the odds are I'm eating unhealthy. My parents smoke, I'm more likely to smoke. If my parents drink, I'm more likely to drink. And so we need to break that cycle. We need to break that habit because
More from an observation and being in the environment, not so much the predisposition genetically.
it's habits, right?
Yeah.
Habits start
Yeah.
to form when we're young, especially our eating habits. And so if we're around healthy people, we're going to tend to have healthier choices. If we're around unhealthy people, right? I'm a big believer that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now.
Yeah. So take a look at who you're spending time with. Look
Yes.
at the areas of your life that you want to improve, and are they lifting you up? Or are they pulling you down from those goals?
100%.
And a lot of times you look at how children are growing up, look at the influence the parents and the family have at events. We, look at celebration. We gather around eating cake and unhealthy food, right? And if we can gather around eating healthier things and enjoy things, then we're going to start creating better habits for children. So one of the things that I do is I actually do talks at my kids' school a couple times a year. And we talk about the importance of nutrition and how to eat healthy. And the kids love it. They love learning about this. And then we test them with this device and we gamify nutrition,
Absolutely.
right? And it's a fun game that we play because everyone wants to do better. And we talk
They want to
about,
have a higher score.
yeah, we tell them, if you eat more fruits and vegetables, there's some supplements that the parents can choose, because if we're not getting these nutrients from our diets, we need to get them from some other sources. And so we provide some kids supplements that are safe and effective for these kids to take, but we always focus on diet first. And when we do these events, my wife is getting text messages from the other families. This is what we ate for lunch. I mean, they will change their behavior almost instantly. And when they see that score improve, when we come back to that school and we retest them again, it gives them feedback. They feel good about it. And you know what? They take a little bit more of a commitment to do a little bit better and a little bit better. And it becomes this progression. I mean, New Year's resolutions do not work for most people. It's too much of a dramatic change. But if we can casually or escalate these changes over time with a feedback loop, which we can do with this device, we can now make some more permanent changes, because children today, life expectancy is going down
Yes.
because of what the kids are eating. You go to, I mean, when we started having our kids and they were young and we would go to the restaurant and they get the kids menu, I'm like, I'm not feeding them this crap, right? Look at this: chicken fingers, pizza, hot dogs, hamburgers, quesadillas,
Macaroni and cheese.
right? I think Cheesecake Factory is the only restaurant that actually had salmon on the kids menu. Now, granted, it was probably farm raised, which you should never eat, but
Right.
at least they were making it an attempt there. And so our children rarely ever order off the kids menu. They eat what we eat. They eat healthy, good, nutritious food.
I started making coconut broccoli for my kids when I was young. So again, their palates develop too when they're young.
Well, yeah, and that's what the food
So
industry knows, is the
if
food
you
industry.
if you look, I was eating Fruit Loops and Captain Crunch and hot dogs and macaroni and cheese. I mean, our generation when we were younger, a lot of times it's interesting what we were eating. However, we were much more active. So the other component, that's why you said diet and lifestyle. We have a more sedentary lifestyle today because of the advancements in technology. And kids are gaming and they're on their computers and their iPhones and their iPads all the time, so they're less active. So it's like a double whammy. Unless you go into the supermarket and you shop the perimeter Okay. You have 20 aisles of processed and packaged food that is horrible, honestly, for you. So it's that diet combined with if I'm eating all of the stuff and I'm sitting there watching my Netflix, that people can just sit there and binge watch the programming and eat their potato chips and cookies, and it's kind of fun and delicious sometimes, but
Well, the food
and you feel like
industry
crap after.
the food industry actually does research on this. So they know how much that their goal is how do we get people to eat more of our food so we can sell them more of our food? How do we make the food addictive?
Yes,
The
I know.
companies that make potato chips, do you ever wonder why the bags are always a little bit smaller than you would like? That's intentional. Right? They
Right.
know that you'll eat an average
Half
of
of it is air.
yeah, well, they'll make these little bags as 1 ounce because they know the average person will eat 1.5 ounces. So what they do is they know that you're going to reach for that second bag. They make things salty and sweet for reasons. They know how to trick the body to want to eat more of their food, to consume more of their stuff. Oreos will do research and they say, okay, this formula, how many Oreos will a kid eat if they have this formula? And then let's give them another formula and see how many they eat till they stop. And let's give them, and they do literally research experiments to see which formula will cause the kid to
Kid
eat
to
the
eat
most.
more. Want you to
Right?
eat
It's
more.
absolutely crazy what they do. And unless you're
So
aware
people
of
are
it,
like living to eat instead of eating to live.
and it's completely void of any nutrients. There's just a bunch of chemicals. I mean, the partially hydrogenated oils that are in there, the chemicals, the artificial sweeteners that are in there. Ever since fat-free food came out, remember what was it, the 90s or so, we got fatter, right?
Well, a fat, yeah. I remember York peppermint patty. It would say a fat. Suddenly, it started saying a fat-free food. Meanwhile, it's straight sugar,
Straight sugar, yeah.
and sugar is like numero uno in causing cancer. And again, people don't realize, how do you get people to care? It's the next level in leadership and getting people to care. We also are a world we are in. We have so much information at our fingertips. It's almost information overload to the point where there's conflicting information. People don't know what to believe. Like you said, the supplement industry, which product is better? Which brand is better? I mean, if I'm getting magnesium, is it magnesium? Magnesium? Does it really make a difference? Like which company I'm taking the magnesium from? And so I just have a question. How do we get people to care? Because there's plenty of how-tos. I can give you the tips and tricks and steps and how to do things as a strategist, but without the number one desire, you have to want to. Really, really, it boils down. We have to want to change. We have to want to be better. We want to feel better and get healthy. We have to want to get healthy. And so I have a desire to inspire. That's my number one, is to inspire others to care, to see the higher possibility for themselves, that you can increase your energy, you can feel better. And then what's possible from that place?
We need to create awareness, right? I mean, there's a reason why Coca-Cola and McDonald's continue to market. We all know about their products, but they continue to talk about them because they want you thinking about them. Nobody would demand or want or seek out a lot of these processed foods if they weren't marketed to us. So what we need to do is create more awareness around health, right? And show people practical, trusted ways to be able to address those things that are simple. And that's one of the things that we do with Get Healthy USA is we give people science-based, practical ways and steps that they can take so that they don't have to try to do all the research themselves and get lost, because people that are confused end up doing nothing because they don't want to make the wrong decision. So number one, we
I'll
create
just
awareness.
do nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, we create the awareness, and then we have to show them some simple things they can do. And rather than just taking things away, you start to replace bad habits with good habits. You start to replace the soda with maybe something else that has flavor but is healthier and doesn't have all the sugar that's in it, right? And so if we start to replace
Flavored
things, and then we
waters and
can,
things.
yeah, there are different things that we can do.
Great. I'm excited. I'm really excited for where the company is going and the technology, and to continue with you in 2025 to see what's possible, because there's definitely alignment there.
It's a very exciting year. We actually just filmed a women's health documentary with our good friends Anthony Lawley and Teresa Lawley from Biohack Yourself Media. So
Excellent.
they've got a Biohack Yourself as a documentary on Amazon. The one that we just filmed for will be in a documentary on Amazon called Shield. It will come out this summer. So we're excited to share the message, and they've been huge advocates of making America healthy again. We met with Del Bigtree recently, what he's doing. If you guys have not checked out the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, I suggest you do that, because we're really starting to get to the root cause of why our country is sick and starting to get to the root benefits or ways to solve these issues so that people can have better choices and they can move forward with confidence.
Excellent. Dr. Steve Moore, thank you so much for coming on the Lead What You Live podcast. And I can't wait to see where this goes with the new technology.
Very excited to be here with you, Tina,
Yes.
and looking forward to
I'm looking forward to the Biohacker Expo coming up.
We're heading over there just here in a few minutes.
Exactly. Thank you again for joining me in my great conversation with Dr. Steve Moore and talking about the Get Healthy USA movement, this incredible healthcare technology. Like I said before, as a life strategist focusing on health, wealth, and relationships, my top value is health and wellness. And I intend to become part of this Get Healthy USA movement. I believe everything is energy. And I hope you will join me, gethealthyusa.com, and check out the technology and what's coming. Thank you.